Have you ever felt nervous before teaching a class? If you're human, and I certainly hope that you are, of course you have. Very, 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 very few of us feel totally on point and comfortable all the time. So the difference between a competent teacher and a good teacher is the ability to funnel and redirect that nervous energy into something which will benefit the teaching classroom or benefit the students. In fact, if you find that over a given period of time, you have no anxieties whatsoever about performing in front of students the hands-on proportion of what they're going to learn, or answering every question they might have, or treating each individual student the way they deserve and needed to be treated so that they can learn the sales system. Or, I'm sorry, did I say sales? Learn the education portion of their conduct. If you don't care, chances are very likely that if you don't care, you're not putting as much effort into the classroom as you really should. So, if you feel anxious, don't worry about that. Put that nervous energy, if you have any of it, into working just a little bit harder. You might be surprised. Remember, if you're not worried about the students, if you're not worried about the material you're delivering, if you are just going through the motions, or you know that no matter what happens, you'll always be on top of the game, then chances are you're running over old material. Or you're running over old material which is either so old and out of date that it cannot possibly be refuted, or you're working in a situation in which you simply don't care about the outcome. The students can learn or not learn. That's really not the way to a great teaching. Examine the way you prep for your classes. If you know the material, have you found that you don't prep for your classes? Have you found that when, on occasion, you don't prep for your classes, you may not find that the software works the way it's supposed to because it's been updated? Or students ask questions that you may not know the answer to. Or students will ask you questions about current trends in the topic that you have not heard of. Remember, there are often ways in which we can put off our understanding of a topic, or we can put off our work on a class, or we can put off grading a project because we have our own special issues and anxieties. And there are many, many different ways. And this doesn't just happen in the teaching field, this happens in the work field too. Poor performance, static PowerPoints with endless bullet points, reading the presentations off the board. There are numerous big no-nos that come out of this. The most famous of which is procrastination. It's just going to take so much work for me to learn that topic. I'll push it back until later. And you push it back and you push it back until you have no choice but to learn everything in a short period of time, glossing over many of the fine details. Procrastination is a big indicator that something wrong is occurring. If you find that rather than working on materials for your classes, you're putting non-essential tasks in front of doing this research, that's a big indicator that something may need to be changed. I'm going to give you 3 ideas here to help move through that process a little more smoothly. Step number 1, realize that education is a transfer of knowledge and feeling. And if you feel like you need to rush through a topic, the students will feel like it is not as important, or they will feel rushed to complete it. If they get the feeling that you are poo-pooing the topic or poo-pooing their questions, students will feel like their questions are really not worth answering, or that the questions that they're bringing up, well, they're just not worth learning, or they're out of date and there's something that they shouldn't have to worry about, which will only make it worse when they find that in the workplace or real life. On the other hand, if you are approaching the material with an open and happy attitude, with a positive train of thought. You welcome any questions. Questions that you have issues with, you're welcome to open to the classroom decision so that people are hearing more than just one idea. This is all a positive feeling that will be transferred to the students. And as soon as the students see your lectures not as a boring reprise of the information they read over last week or the information they read the night before, they will start to see that you are giving the lecture for their benefit. And once they see that it's for their benefit, they'll perk up and pay more attention. If you find that the material is something you're not as happy with, or you're not as understanding about, or it's something where maybe your personal knowledge could be better, rather than facing this as a situation in which the students are unsure, try to face each and every one of these situations as an experiment in positive action. Rather than think of it as a situation in which you might be incorrect, think of it as an experiment in which you try something new in a new way that you haven't tried before. Rather than letting, say, the prospect of teaching new material for the first time get you down or cause you anxiety, rather try to face it as an experiment. Use one of these newer methods that you've never used before or that you've wanted to use but never had the opportunity. Then, after you're done, chart. Make a list. Make a topic. Chart out what you did and how it worked, how the students reacted to it. Did they like it? Did they dislike it? Was there something about it that had everyone worried and nervous, or was there everything perfect the first time through? Once you have begun to chart this, chart it through the entire prospect, whether it is beginning of teaching this new thing, hands-on component of a software that you've never done, a question and answer facet that you and the students are working through together, but whatever it is that you do, make sure that you're keeping close tabs on whether it was effective or not. And if it was effective, how effective? If it was not effective, was there something about it that clearly made people worried or nervous, or is there something that really gave them the confidence to do the best job ever? Mark those things down and use this experiment as a way to plan moving forward. So for those of you out there who do get nervous or are a little worried, making notes of the student reactions to the new material that you're covering or the new way in which you are seeking to cover it allows you to focus not on the individual remarks, whether they are smart aleck remarks or whether they are needful points about you didn't cover this and I really felt like I needed it, or maybe if there's something about the syllabus said you would do this but you didn't do it today. Rather than focusing on what you didn't do, write down and make notes and focus on how your individual plan of attack went and what you could do to improve next time, or what really went well. The more you focus on that, the more you will cease to worry and be nervous and anxious about the job that you are doing. If you are focused on merely writing down the reaction to the issue at hand, you will not have to worry about the performance, and you won't have to worry about what the students say. Merely keep a clinical note on what worked well and what needed additional work. This will allow you to proceed with small alterations to content over time and to continue to feel positive. You are a positive role model for those students. You are a knowledgeable and accessible individual, and you want what's best for the class. Sometimes, wanting what's best for people means that you have to give tough love, and sometimes wanting what's best for people means that you have to try something new. So, don't let yourself get knocked down a peg just for trying something new. Besides, you want to be at the top of your game, and often being at the top of the game means you need to take some chances. If you're nervous, if you're worried, Do your best to take a clinical approach and just improve over time. Then, don't individually focus on what somebody said wasn't good or didn't work. Just make your notes and note that for next time. Once you are focusing on the experiment and improving for the future, you'll find that a student who has a problem or a student who complains is not your issue, because you are not focusing on ensuring that every piece of the experiment is perfect, or that every piece of the experiment is perfect for one student. It is merely an experiment. It is something that you will be trying over and over, or in small additions, until you feel like you have gotten it correct. So, in the end, even if you have a truly nasty student, the nasty student is the one who is the problem. You are merely conducting an experiment. As you begin to take this experimental approach to heart, you'll find that you're gaining in confidence, and you'll find that as a teacher, the ability to put this material out of the way for a moment while you focus on the important parts of what you're doing will allow you to have increased confidence. It will also give you the ability to have more time to reflect on what you've done and what your counters are. And as you find that you make adjustments and move how you teach and what you teach to the rhythms that you find from the experiment, you will be a better teacher. The third way in which you can improve is to make an appointment with a mentor if you haven't already gotten one. But if you haven't, make sure to find one. Make sure to visit one of our earlier videos, and I'll put a link in the doobly-doo below so that you can track that down. But make sure that you are setting up a planned time to meet with your mentor. Discuss any issues, worries, or concerns that you have. And if you are already on a set schedule with your mentor, make sure to bring up these particular experiments in your classes there. However, if you're not in a place where you're working with a mentor, or you have several other irons in the fire, what you should do is make sure, and you could probably do this either way, is to make sure that at least one portion of every week is set aside for you to work on upcoming classes, even classes that you are well familiar with, or classes which, beyond being familiar with, you have a set presentation that you will use no matter what. Take the time today to set down a time when you will meet this mentor face-to-face or work on these classes so that you know every time there is no need for you to procrastinate. You've already set aside this time to work. It is something that you can do, it is something that you can look forward to, and it is something that you can plan on. It is important that you get on a set schedule every day or every week so that you know what's coming. That way, no matter what kind of small or paltry problems get in your way, you will always know that at a certain time, on a certain day, or at a given time on every single day, you are always preparing for the next item in the line. That way, small issues will not get you down. You will not be able to hide behind procrastination because you have already planned on the perfection of that item. With an increased sense of discipline and commitment, you will know that when that time comes around, without fail, you will head off to be with your mentor. You will head off to approach that problem individually in your office. You will head off to see that material. A strong, disciplined approach with a consistent time and schedule will make everything that much easier and make you that much more confident and prepared. There is one solid reason why this works, and if it works once, it will work always, and that is that logic trumps emotion. That's right. Whether you want to do it or not, you have set aside a time and a place for it to happen. Whether you want to set aside more or you are too scared, these items will not matter because logically you have set them into being. You know that it will be done. So if you're worried about a class, take the time. Don't let procrastination get you down. To use this today, I suggest choose one of the 3 options and try it out. If you find out that it's working great, awesome. If you find out that it's not working for you, there's still 2 more to go. But the important thing here to remember is this. You are a positive thinker. You're an intelligent individual and you know your materials. You know your materials well enough to teach. So when you are working, if you find that students are simply not paying attention, they tell you afterwards they didn't gain anything from that knowledge, don't take it personally. They're not saying that you are dumb, even if they're telling you straight up. They don't think you're intelligent. What they are doing is they're making an educational decision for themselves. Now, is it a positive decision? Is it a negative decision? I think you'll know the answer to that. But you just may want to give them that extra additional courage and courtesy to tell them to focus on the important things. Whether they liked the presentation or not, it's not that they're rejecting you or your knowledge. It is that they are simply making a decision.